Okay, councillors, we'll declare the meeting open and we'll stand for the affirmation. We recognise the traditional owners of the land were inspired by the early pioneers and by those who gave their lives for our country. We now ask on God's blessings on our deliberations and on our commitment to build a better lifestyle and environment. Be seated. This council meeting is being recorded and live streamed to council's YouTube channel. The recording will also be made available on council's website. Whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. Thank you. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Daniel Maloney from Ballarat City Council. Welcome, Daniel, to our meeting. Have any apologies? None. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting held on Monday the 6th of February and also a meeting held on the 20th of February.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to say that that's an accurate record. The minutes are an accurate record.
Have a mover, have a seconder?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I second that motion.
All those in favour? That's carried. Any matters arising from the minutes? No. No presentation or awards. No petitions or joint letters. Any conflicts of interest? No. None recorded. None to record. Informal meetings of councillors. Quite a number there. Advisory groups. Council briefings. Could you move and seconder for those?
Yes, Mr Mayor, happy to note those meetings.
Councillor Emerson, get a seconder.
Happy to second that motion.
Councillor Heslop. Doesn't need any comments. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Okay, item 9.2.1, event strategy.
I'm happy to recommend that Council endorses the Northern Grampians event strategy for 2022 to 23.
Move Councillor Dempsey.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Second Councillor Heslop. Councillor Dempsey.
Just to clarify, it's from 2023 to 2033. Even with glasses on, I missed that. That's so it's a 10-year strategy, and the strategy will guide Council to grow the Northern Grampians Shire calendar of tourism events and extend visitor length of stay, which is something we all aim to achieve. It's a really good strategy. I've read through it, and the document provides Council the 10 years of an implementation plan and a framework with key recommendations of how Council could best enable, along with event stakeholders, the growth of events for the economy and social benefit for our Shire. There's some key points to note. So there's been a lot of engagement and consultation when it came to this document. So there was a feedback form that people could fill out, and there was also targeted interviews conducted, of which helped to inform our strategy as well. Some things I'd like to point out, there's some great, if you read the event strategy, there's some good data around at the major events that we run, such as Grape Escape and Stall Gift, and where the people are coming from, the numbers to the area. So both events gather about 6,000 people at each. But there's probably only about, especially the Stall Gift, about 10% that are actually from within our Shire. The rest come from outside. So a point that we've noted in the past is it'd be great to get more locals as well attending that event so we continue boosting that economic growth locally. But yes, it's a fabulous strategy, and I really congratulate the number of staff members that worked on this. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I just think it's very important that we have the strategic document. Events are very important for our Shire, whether it be major or community events. Having a strategic document just might enable us to attract more funding for these events and give them a lot more viability. And It's about growing events and nurturing events and making sure that our events are financially and viable and stable in our future, and very, very important to our economy. So a very good document.
Any other councillors?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the major issue behind that the event strategy is the fact that we're going to grow our own grassroots events rather than buy them in. Strategically, that's a wise choice. There are a number of community groups, individual members that have passion, and from those passions grow events. This document provides all the support necessary to effectively hug those passionate groups and people to create long-term events, not just one-year wonders, but ongoing events that will grow, such as the Store Gift, such as Grape Escape. We need more of them right across the Shire, and that's one of the reasons why the Council decided to bring the Visitor Information Centre, the tourism development into the Shire as well. So this strategic document will provide the all-encompassing love and care of those people that are going to create these events for us. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to speak? I just add that it is a very good document and will give direction for the next few years. Events are hard to run, they're costly, and post-COVID it has made things a lot harder. So congratulations to all those involved in formulating this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly, I echo the sentiments of my fellow councillors there, in particular Councillor Ostasevich, pointing out those grassroots events. I see in the strategy as well, there's the Pacific Islander Talent Night that started last year with having such a high cohort in our area now, in particularly in Stolt, as to be able to embrace that community and make them feel welcome and included. And then it's great to see that that will continue into future years, plus a number of other events. So feel free to read through it and see what you think. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Item 9.3.1, Electrical Line Clearance Management Plan 2023 to 24. What are we doing there?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move, and thank you for allowing me to spark this meeting up, but I'd like to make the recommendation that Council adopts the Electrical Line Clearance Maintenance Plan 2023-24.
Get a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Starcevic.
This plan provides a roadmap for our staff to clear limbs and various other debris and detritus that could otherwise foul our electrical systems. It's updated fundamentally to come in line with the regulations and legislation changes that have been imposed since the last round. And without this protocol procedures, our crew would not be able to deliver the service that we require. Thank you.
Councillor Haswell.
It's just further to that, there's not much more to add. It's just a management plan that we need to keep the area safe, to make sure that the growth isn't interfering with the electrical lines, and that's about it. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Pretty straightforward, this one. Councillor Starcevic, you wish to sum up?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Item 9.4.1, Quarterly Finance Report. Did I miss one? Sorry. Waiving, yes. Sorry. 9.3.2, Waiving and Refund Development Approval Permit Application Fee Policy.
Well, there you go. The recommendation is that Council 1 approves the proposed changes to be made in the waiving and refunding of the Development Approval Services Fees Policy, and 2 adopts the new waiving and refunding of Planning, Building and Environmental Health Fees Policy.
Seconder?
Happy to second that, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Starcevic.
The policy formally recognises the pathway to make refunds available for planning, building and environmental services. It's a clear document that identifies what's required. Thank you.
Councillor Dempsey.
Probably nothing to add, really. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Wish to sum up, Councillor Starcevic?
I should say that that the policy now includes the health services and the change of name policy. So they're additions to the policy that we had before. That's why this upgrade. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Now we'll get up to the quarterly finance report. Motion there. Councillors?
I'm happy to move the recommendation that Council notes the financial report for the second quarter ended 31st December 2022, notes that the Chief Executive Officer advises that the formal adoption of the revised budget for the 2022-23 financial year is not required.
Get a seconder for that? Councillor Hislop?
So yeah, it's a good budget. It shows it's a good, sorry, not a good budget, a good quarterly financial report. It shows that we're on track and there's no surprises. It is projected that the council will end the year with 16.8 million in cash, which is also really good. And yeah, it just gives us an overview of where the spending's been and shows us where the spending's at for each service, and it's all where it should be, so it's really, really good.
Councillor Grady?
Nothing further there. Councillor Hislop summed up very well.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Just might add, we might end up with 16.8 million, but a lot of that money is earmarked for future projects, so we won't get too carried away with the financial situation. Okay, you wish to sum up, Councillor Hislop?
Nothing further to add.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those opposed? That's carried. Item 9.4.3, Finance Reserves Policy.
How could I not follow the council expenditure with this recommendation that council adopt the updated fraud prevention policy?
Sorry. It's all right.
Yep.
That's you're on track.
I am.
I'm getting carried away today.
I'm following the script.
So it's the fraud prevention policy.
I'm happy to second that motion of Councillor Starcevic.
Councillor Starcevic, on the fraud policy.
On the fraud policy, yes, it was rather appropriate that we follow up the expenditure with the fraud policy, but fraud is an insidious thing, something that our officers have diligently tried to avoid as much as possible. No one can ever provide a 100% guarantee against fraud. However, the processes and procedures that have been put in place and the safeguards are sound. They do protect this council, our ratepayer base, against fraud as much as possible. And I think it's important for us to recognise the work, the active work that has happened, gone into it by our council officers, including the provision of the latest software, which will no doubt be updated soon. Thank you.
Councillor Dempsey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This has come about because the policy was last adopted in June 2017, so this is just an updated fraud prevention policy. And as Councillor Starcevic stated, Council has a commitment to the prevention, detection and investigation of any fraudulent activity, and the Council takes a zero tolerance approach to the fraud and corruption. So this policy just basically shines a light on that as well and puts it into place. And it works quite well. Don't think we had too many fraud cases. So that's quite good too. So I commend the policy to Council.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Starcevic.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Dempsey hit the nail on the head. We haven't had any reported fraud cases for quite some time, so that's a really good test of the fraud protections that we have, not least of which the policy, but the protection measures that we have are sound. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion on. All those in favour? Going well today. Motion's carried. Now we'll get up to the finance reserves policy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I may, I would move a motion that this item be deferred.
Thanks, Councillor Emerson. Get a second if it.
Second that motion.
Councillor Emerson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This motion is in regard to the events reserves money, and there is quite a lot of work to be done by the officers and by council to get recognition into the budget, for one thing, and to also work out how the events policy should be administered going forward. So I commend the motion to my council.
Councillor Haswell. Nothing further, Mr Mayor. Any other councillors wish to speak? Okay, Councillor Emerson, you wish to sum up?
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That motion's carried. Property realignment of 14 Palmer Street.
No. Don't steal the opportunity, Mr Mayor.
I was only trying to say to your voice. 9.4.4, delegation update.
I rise and thank you, Councillor Emerson, for this wonderful opportunity. The recommendation is that A, Section 5, instrument delegation from the Council to the CEO. In the exercise of the powers conferred by Section S11(1)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020, the Act, Council resolves that 1, there be delegated to the person holding the position or acting in or performing the duties of Chief Executive Officer the powers, duties and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. 2, the instrument comes into force immediately upon this resolution being made and is to be signed by the Council Chief Executive Officer and Mayor. 3, on the coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations to the Chief Executive Officer are revoked. 4, the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed and the powers set out in the instrument must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of Council that may from time to time adopt. B, had I known it was this long. Section 6, instrument of delegation from Council to members of Council staff. In the exercise of the powers conferred by the legislation referred to in the attached instrument of delegation, Council resolves that 1, there be delegated to the members of Council staff holding, acting in or performing the duties of the officers or positions referred to in the attached instrument of delegation to members of the Council staff, the powers, duties and functions set out in that instrument, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. 2, the instrument comes into force immediately. Immediately the instrument is signed. 3, on the coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations to members of Council staff other than the Chief Executive Officer are revoked. 4, the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed and the powers set out in the instrument must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of Council that may from time to time adopt. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll do the quite easy job of seconding that motion.
Well, that wonderful jargon-filled motion basically means that the CEO that we've recently hired and Mr Brent McAllister, who's now joined us, can actually officially act as the CEO. Bottom line. Alleluia, all praise to our new CEO. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Dempsey. Any other councillor wish to speak? I'm sure you've got something to add.
Actually, surprisingly not. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? welcome aboard officially, Brett. You've now got the rubber stamp. Okay, we'll get on to the...
And of course, you should always remember there is a fraud box.
Now we'll get on to the Elmer Street. Property realignment of 14 Elmer Street, St Arnaud.
The recommendation is that Council 1 designates that part allotment 11, section O, Township and Parish of St Arnaud, being 229 square metres, is surplus to council needs, subject on a satisfactory outcome of the community engagement process. 2, resolves to sell by private treaty the council-owned property being part allotment 11, section O, Township and Parish of St Arnaud, for the market value to the registered proprietor of Crown Allotment 10, Section O, Township and Parish of St Arnaud, conditional on a satisfactory outcome of the mandatory community engagement process. And 3, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to execute and transfer instrument or other transfer documentation. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Seconder for that motion.
I'm happy to second that.
You wish to speak, Councillor?
This is a really quite a useful realignment of property boundaries. The property in question is on Elmer Street. It was used as a car yard and a maintenance depot for quite some number of years. The property utilised a portion of ground that was actually in council's hands. So this is now rationalising and consolidating the parcel of land. The new owner, who is new to town, brings an auto electrical business to town, has been critically needed for some number of years. Has taken on the ownership of that property and has agreed to purchase the Crown Allotment Section 11 Part O, so that he can develop the land and develop his business in the town. So more power to his arm. Thank you.
Councillor Hislop.
Yeah, I'll just say it's very exciting and I'm very pleased to have this on the table. So now after this recommendation goes to council, there will be a community engagement. The community engagement will occur by the giving of public notice in the local newspaper, and people read it in the paper and have a right to make a submission if required. But yeah, look, it's a good agenda item, and yeah, I think we're very pleased with the situation at the moment. So that's all I've got to say. Yep.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Been a long and tedious process. I think. You wish to sum up?
No, it's fortunately the purchaser had a licence to use the property in the meantime, so this delay in finally going through the instruments has not affected his business at all. We have other vacant premises in town. If we could secure other trades and services for this community, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, there's been quite a bit going on in the last month. We attended the MAV leadership at Essendon Fields. Councillor Emerson, the Mayor and Councillor Ezop attended with me on that day. It was quite an interesting day. The highlight for me was Susan McLean talking about the social media with council, and our CEO is going to bring her up to have a talk to councillors, which I thought was a good idea. We attended the Grampians Tourism at Dunkeld. Mark Seaman and his crew put on a great day there, and thanks to their own staff as well. Justine and Anna done a great job down there. Railfront Alliance in Docklands. was quite an interesting main thing with down there they talked about down there was the ring road and the rail ring road and a new freight centre at Melton and Beveridge. So they are still a fair way down the track, but they're going to take the pressure off the Tottenham. Attended the Grampians Health drop-in meeting and the Grampians AGM. We've got a long way to go there, as you'll hear in the future. We attended the Great Western Futures Committee, and Brent, the CEO, come down with me down there and met the committee, which was a great night. We attended the Halls Gap response planning at the Halls Gap Hall. A huge turnout of people, which was really good, I thought. A lot of these meetings sort of go along and you don't see too many there, but we had a really good turnout for that one. Nearly done. I went to the VLGGC stakeholders information session where just basically discussed about grants available to council and to the, which was very intense, a lot of that to me. We also met with the Gender Equity Commissioner, Victorian Commissioner. She's the only commissioner in the state, in Australia at the moment. And it was a very interesting meeting about gender equity, and thanks to Vaughan, and actually set her on the right path of how well the Northern Grampians is actually doing on that side of things. And the great result out at Halls Gap, we've got the seats and the two shelters are actually installed between Halls Gap and Belfield. And we also have the luminous centre line on the shared path to Belfield, which is a great thing, which a lot of people out in the community out there have been asking for. Yeah, so, and then we have the Halls Gap Ratepayers AGM on Wednesday night, which will be Brent said he'll come out with me to that, so that'll be really good for the people to get to meet our new CEO at Halls Gap. Thank you.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I attended the information centre for Grampians Health held up at the hospital just about a fortnight ago, and we're dealing with all sorts of problems since the takeover by Grampians Health, unfortunately. And this was borne out by the sheer amount of people that showed up for the information session. And I think we've got a long way to go with this. We're under pressure here to do something by our residents. Our residents are under stress. I spoke to one of the people who works at the health clinic, whatever it's called there, where the doctors are. Yes, that's it. And she said, we're just about doing nothing in there now. There's nothing happening, and we don't have any patients coming in. We've got to actually be active about this. We've got to do something proactive. We've got to make sure that we look at our residents, especially our elderly residents. We need them to have good health care. We need them to have doctors that they know and they rely on, and they need to be able to be seen when they need to be able to be seen. And since these people have come in and they've taken everything over from here to Timbuktu and back again, trying to level the playing field and make sure that all the doctors are paid exactly the same amount no matter where they are, this situation isn't going to work. Traditionally in the Northern Grampians Shire, we have paid doctors more to come and be located away from the city areas. And we've paid them more for two reasons. So as they'll come here in the first place, but also so they'll stay. And these doctors have become part of our community, and many of those of recent times, since the Grampians Healthcare took it over, they've left. They're going and they're not coming back. And this is why we saw such a huge outpouring of grief from the people. Most of the people that I saw there the other day were 70 plus, and they were really in a state of despair. not knowing what they were going to do. A lot of them are such an age that they can't operate a computer, they can't operate a mobile phone, probably don't drive anymore, have called to get booked in to a doctor in Ararat to be told we're not taking any new patients. So I just say to everybody in this room, it's something that we've got to be mindful of. It is the work of the councillors that are needed to help fix this, because it is our residents that are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Going on from what the councillors have said so far, I also attended the Grampians Health drop-in session and annual general meeting, where we discussed and listened to the concerns of community members, and at the AGM received an update from Grampians Health on their achievements to date, along with their annual report. Central Grampians also attended their governance and finance subcommittee last week, and this week we'll be attending their board meeting. Also attended the Women for Council meeting that I've spoken about before. That was formed by a number of passionate community members looking to see more women on council and supporting the women that are on council for Northern Grampians Shire, and working towards achieving the state target of 50% women on council by 2025. We had a guest speaker that day. That was Jessie Holmes, who former CEO at Yarriambiack Shire Council and currently works as a director at Highmarsh. And that was fabulous to hear her speak and have her insights. From a female perspective, she provided 3 roles of councillors that I thought really hit the mark. So for people that may not be aware, for councillors have a financial responsibility, so we look after the budget. A risk appetite, so looking at weighing up what we want to spend and on what and how. And then strategy, so strategic operations, which underpins everything within the council plan. And that's the level that we work at and where we can make changes moving forward in the future. And we also talked about there's a Women Leading Locally program. So there's fellowships currently open for women that are looking to run in the 2024 election. And that's for, I think there's about 32 councils across the state that have been identified as priority, with Northern Grampians Shire being one of them, underrepresented. And there's 60 places on offer. So if there is any women that are looking to potentially put their hand up, that is a free course where you receive a certificate in community leadership and governance for local government. So a state government initiative that would be great for people to put their hand up to do. With the CEO and Councillor Hislop, I attended Walker's Lake, which is a beautiful part of our shire. We discussed the key issues that were happening there with the Avon Plains and Banyina members of their land care group. As Councillor Grady stated, the Gender Equality Commissioner came, Dr Nikki Vincent, and we looked at, discussed the legislation for councils and how well internally Northern Grampians Shire are doing. And part of that legislation, councils have to complete a gender impact assessment, audit data, and have a gender equality action plan, which internally we're working towards quite well. And the only other thing is International Women's Day. That is held, it will be this Wednesday, the 8th of March. There's 2 events that council are running. So Sananad Council have arranged a selection of inspirational local female artists to contribute to the creative shopfront display at the front of Weir's IGA. And if it's something you wish to attend and be involved in, you can contact council for more information. And in Stall, they're celebrating with an afternoon tea and listening to some inspiring local women in the community who are doing great things. And that's at the Neighbourhood House from 3:30 till 5 p.m. On the 8th of March as well. But if it's something that you wish to register for, you can contact council as well. Thank you. That'll do, Mr. Mayor.
So I won't double up. I've been to a few events that a few other councillors have been to, so I'll just talk about a Sonana VFF branch meeting that myself, Brent and Eddie attended. We were just there to discuss the South Wimmera North East Pyrenees Water Supply Feasibility Study. So at the moment we've sent out in the Northern Grampians Shire, about 800 letters have gone out to local residents just asking them for expressions of interest. So we need those people to submit expressions of interest. Expressions of interest don't hold anyone to account. They just let us know what areas may be interested in extending the Wimmera Mallee pipeline to provide water to farm gate parts of Northern Grampians Shire. So it's a great project. It's been a lot of work going previously to get this to the stage that it is at now. So if we can get enough people put expressions of interest in, then that will give us information of where the growth areas may be, and then they will look at those areas and maybe do feasibility studies and business cases. So it's a very exciting project, and I hope that people do support it. And there is a meeting on tomorrow night at Navarre Football Netball Club Recreation Reserve, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So a few of the councillors will be in attendance, and there'll be a barbecue, and we'll be discussing the project, and just people can go and ask us questions and have a chat about it. But we really need people to support it. So that's me.
Councillor Starcevic.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council's deliberated over the course of the last 6 to 9 months on how we engage our youth. We talk about our senior citizens, we talk about our adult population, but we really haven't thoroughly engaged with our youth. And we've had the opportunity now at Sonana to have 2 sessions with young people, and I say young people, 12 to 17. 43 people have been in attendance with 8 parents, which has been a phenomenal response. The first day that the question really went out to the press was on Wednesday. On Thursday evening at 5 o'clock, there were 24 young kids there. So I've got to say it's a better response than some of our adult population can give us. So more power to the young ones. They've, contrary to popular belief, they've got very clear ideas on what they want to do, and that's going to be subject to a paper I'll be presenting to my fellow councillors on the information that I heard from them. But fundamentally is 3 broad categories. One is more the athletic style, where they're talking about a pump track, which is a new phenomenon to me, but I learn and live every day. So it allows gravity to take hold of the kids as they run over a set of moguls, effectively. God, that makes me feel so old. Anyway, the second was for those that are non-athletic, and they wanted to. The high school here doesn't offer arts and crafts beyond Year 9, so some of the very clear views are that they would like to participate in artistic endeavours, whether it be art or crafts, and we're just trying to work out what that means and how it's supported by community. And the third one is really hits home, which is the lack of water resource, and that's Goldfield Reservoir. There's a very clear drive for recreation water for kids to simply ride out to from town that extends beyond a normal. That extends to past endeavours. So that's a topic that's fraught, but nevertheless it needs to be raised. So I've got to say I thoroughly enjoyed. It was refreshing talking to these young kids. They were very clear on where they were heading, and it was absolutely refreshing to see the leadership, the young leadership that we've got, 14 years of age, very clearly speaking their mind and representing their peers, which was fantastic to see. Neighbourhood House, Heather Brassington has been looking to provide our elderly citizens provide our elderly citizens with an opportunity to re-engage after COVID. So she's set in motion plans to have a dance and sing-along, which I'll raise with our new CEO now that he's been delegated the powers to act as CEO. So now he can use it, which is awesome. That's important for our seniors that have had the hardest of times being locked away a lot of the time. I attended a number of AGMs, which I was, two that stand out is the Pebble Church. Phenomenal, the group of people that back the Pebble Church, the passion for that building and by those people is extraordinarily strong, and I think that our events policy will help them deliver their proposed actions within the Pebble Church. They were looking for weddings. Some suggestions were that they could even have vow renewals. So Dave, if you wouldn't mind renewing, please. Alternatively, they could have a kick to the curb, you know, the divorces, amicable divorces, they could have a kick to the curb party. So there's all sorts of things that they're thinking about. So I'm really pleased, and the passion, we talk about the passion in the events strategy. These people are truly passionate. They've raised $180,000 of their own cash to buy the place and renovate the place. That speaks volumes. They will not go away, and we have to support them, and that's what the events policy is all about, which is great. And then on the other side, which is Emu Hall, we need to show our outlying communities more love. Emu Hall needs a bit of support to reinvigorate their space, and that will be subject to another paper. And that'll do for the time being, I think. Yep, over to you.
Councillor Emerson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In addition to all the meetings that we attend from month to month, there's two things of note for me. One is to report that I've played a very large part in the delivery of the lighting at North Park, at Lord Nelson Park. It's been quite a task dealing with the Harness Racing Victoria, the state government and sport and recreation, but as recent as today I got notification that everything's ready to go, $680,000 project. So I'm very pleased with that. A lot of my time in the last month has been taken up with the Store Gift Event Management Board in endeavouring to deliver an enjoyable, viable, family orientated Easter gift early in April. Thank you.
Very good. Yes, Easter's coming around very quickly. It's good to see you've all been very busy. Many of the councillors have already mentioned meetings which I have attended, but I did come over the Farmers Harvest breakup. It was a very good event. Always a great event to attend. So, and caught up with many and introduced the local ABC person to a few over here too. So, it was a great event. Also, Councillor Heslop has mentioned the pipeline and the meeting tomorrow night at Navarre. We did attend the one at Natty, which Councillor Ostasovic was at too, and I believe there's over 100 expressions of interest already, so that's progressing along very well. Attended Probus meeting, Stall Probus, got another one tomorrow, and also had a meeting with the Deputy Premier regarding the duplication of the highway, which is 7 years overdue to be completed, and its state, and she was very receptive of the comments around that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that the highway can get underway the next construction period, which will be probably next summer. Also had a meeting with the CEO and Chair of Grampians Health. There's still some work to do, as Councillor Haswell has mentioned, and we'll continue on to represent the community of Stawell and surrounds on that regard. Okay, that's reports. Yes. Yes, I did mention, firstly, who was in charge from Northern Grampians' perspective. Damien is known to the Deputy Premier, and I did mention that, yeah, the 2026 Commonwealth Games. There's not too much distance between that and the running of the stall gift in that period, and would be good to have some of those overseas people come to Northern Grampians, either as athletes or as tourists or as business people, to further that experience in Australia. So, and she was very receptive of that, thought it was a very good idea. So we'll see where that one goes. They've tried once. Okay, can I get a mover and seconder for those reports? Thanks.
Yeah, happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Hugh. All in favour? That's carried. Okay, there's no urgent business item. Public question times. There was one from... Yeah, and I might hand over to our CEO. We've got the question, Dave, so we've got the question.
Oh, okay. So do I have to read it back out again? Or?
No.
Okay.
There's no need to read the question, so...
Oh, it says...
You can if you want to.
All right, well, I'm David Reynolds. I live at number 6 William Street, St Arnaud. I'll put my spectacles on. Hang on.
Know the feeling well?
So a bit of background information. In order to find out information on planning applications, residents of the Northern Grampians Shire Council are required to attend the Shire offices during business hours to view the planning documentation in hard copy form. The process discriminates against people who work standard business hours. While attending the office, potential objectors or even supporters cannot take photographs or copies of the planning documents. People who wish to record information are required to take handwritten or typed notes. It's a laborious process, taking many hours, and is unfair against people who have literacy issues. You also can't take the documentation out of the council offices, so you feel kind of constricted and constrained when you're sitting there trying to pour through what you need to do. Many other shires have their planning permits available online, including our people that surround us, Bull Oak, Central Goldfields, Pyrenees and Ararat rural city. Are there plans by the Northern Grampians Shire Council to make the planning process more open, transparent, modernised and inclusive by making planning documentation available online? If so, when will this occur, and if not, why not?
And I'll hand over to our CEO who will answer that question.
Righto, thanks David for your question. Look, 2 responses. One in relation to whether you can get copies of planning permits. I'm advised that currently if a planning permit is on public notice, officers can forward the application documentation to the individual via email or post on request. So I would be fascinated to know how, where you got that response from. In relation to online, those other councils you've mentioned, the system that council is going to bring in, council has currently acquiring a new system called Greenlight that will enable planning applications to be made available online, with a plan for the system to be live by September 2023. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
It is in trade, so give us a bit of flexibility on that September 23, maybe. That's our anticipated date, but it is in the go. Yeah. Also have a question here, and I might take it on notice, Anne. We'll get a response back to you.
Do you want me to read it out?
If you wish.
Yes, I would like to read it out. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I notice in your events strategy you say you are protecting, enhancing and celebrating our natural, cultural and heritage assets. How long will this council allow the Wild Horses Festival or any others like it to continue to operate on an unsuitable site within our national park and to the detriment and aggravation of neighbours and residents?
Okay, we'll get back to you with an answer.
Thank you.
Give it to Gary if you like. Okay. Okay, well, ask a question and we might have to get back to you with an answer.
Sure, that's okay.
Mr Mayor and councillors, thank you for giving me the time to just address you regarding an issue that concerns me.
Maybe your name and...
I was just about, sorry.
Sorry.
My name's Eric Matson. I reside at 62 Napier Street. I'm a recent arrival, if you want, to your town, and I love it. The issue that I'd like to talk about is I noted that there's a current March 2023 NGSC flood study that's been presented, which addresses options for controlling Sonata inflow to the catchment. But as far as I can tell, I only read it this morning, that there's no options for overflow reservoirs or any way of controlling water flow within the centre of town. What I would like to ask is, number one, could the car park, for instance, as an option behind the council offices here, be considered as an overflow reservoir for the purpose of perhaps controlling water flow, perhaps lowering it, perhaps looking at the option of trying to get water into that area and using that as a control strategy. I've seen it before, it operates beautifully, so I'm just wondering if that could be considered. I believe that would definitely help with addressing some issues of flooding in the main street, which is your major production of money in the town, and you're obviously trying to address the heritage issues and various other issues relating to the town, so it's very important to me. The other thing is also, of course, there is an issue with controlling water within the town, and I just wondered also if there's an option of perhaps lowering the channel where the water flows as an option. I know it's probably got some historic value. I don't know the origins. I don't know a lot about that yet. But given that you want to contain the water, perhaps it might be considered as an option as well. So they're my two questions.
Okay. Well, if you leave those questions, perhaps,
Sure.
if that's possible, and we'll have to get back to you on those because we actually didn't do the study, the CMA.
The study was done and taken by us, but by consultant.
Yeah. Yes. It'll need some consultation to work through those things. Of course. Thank you very much for your question. Okay. We now have some couple of contractual items to deal with, so if I could get a motion to go into closed council.
Yes, Mr Mayor, happy to move a motion that we go from open council to closed council to deal with some confidential matters.
Get a seconder?
I'll second that we move in camera.
All in favour? Motion's carried. Thanks very much.
a lot of people come back in.
Someone wants to be there. Thank you.
Just wait for it to end.
Wait for it to come back in.
Come back in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Quiet, everyone.
I am pleased to announce report back the items resolved in the closed council session. Item 14.1, Council made a determination not to approve a rate exemption application. 14.2, Council agreed to award a contract C11 2022-23 Halls Gap Heath Street Bridge Design Project to WGA Vic Pty Limited for their submitted price. And 14.3, Council agreed to waive a new food premises registration fee and requires the business to pay an annual food premises registration fee. And 14.4, Council made a determination to partly refund a statutory planning application fee. Also, Mr Mayor, I can report from previous council meetings the following. Tender results from the 1st of July 2022, 5th of December 2022 and the 20th of February 2023 council meetings can now be released due to all participating councils have made their recommendations and resolutions. And they are as follows. Number 1, to award a contract to implement a new electronic document record management system to Logistics Australia Pty Limited. Award the contract to implement a new local government property and rating system to Council-wise Pty Limited. Number 3, award the contract to implement a new online permit management system to eVis Pty Limited. Number 4, award the contract to implement a new financial management system to EBS Pty Limited. Number 5, award the contract to implement a new budgeting and reporting system to Magic Software Australia Pty Limited. Finally, number 6, award a contract to implement a new payroll system to Android Creations Limited. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, there being no further business, we'll declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Always have tricky days.